If you watch this video, I'm guessing that you have recently become a trainee and will have a junior interview soon, or maybe you are looking directly for a junior level position. At the same time, you're either graduating soon or switching to business analysis from another job or industry. If I'm right, this video is just for you. If I'm not, please drop me a comment sharing your background and why do you watch this video. Hello everybody, I'm Yudi Goman, an ex-hiring manager for business analyst positions. In this series, I'm talking about interview questions for the business analyst role. I'm going through all the levels from trainee to senior and share insights on what hiring managers ask and why those questions make sense. And first of all, we need to define who is a junior. Excluding specific requirements every company has for their level, junior is a person who passed a training program and has knowledge plus tried applying it to the series of homework or a set of real-life project tasks. Junior title also includes people with a year or two of experience who have applied their knowledge to real projects. This is why some companies use an additional level called associate between trainee and junior to refer to people who just got through an internship and have yet to gain real work experience. But generally, a person is referred to as a junior when they are within the range between 0 to a couple of years of experience. In some industries, it might be up to 3 or even 5 years before they let you to the next level, but those cases are rare. So junior is basically a trainee with some experience. That's why all the questions from my previous video also apply here. I recommend you watch it after this one. Besides that, to get through the junior position interview, you must be ready for two common areas of questions. Most junior interviews, at least in the competency part, start by checking your knowledge of business analysis theory. This includes questions about types of requirements, elicitation techniques, different requirements models, etc. There are many categories here, and I will be actually making a separate series of videos about answering many of them. So if you want to learn more in future, subscribe now to catch those videos. I will still review a couple of examples here, so keep watching. Cards on the table. I hate to cram. Sitting with a book and just putting knowledge into my head hour after hour, it feels like torture. The last thing I put myself through this was a year ago when I was preparing for my CBAP exam. Oh boy, getting through 600 pages of complex stuff was not my dream at all. But why then the first thing I talk about is theory and ask the same questions if I'm a practitioner at heart? Well, there is a simple answer to that. Without knowing the foundation, you're like a mole. You might be digging really hard, but you have no clue in which direction. As an aspiring professional, you must rely heavily on the instructions you were given. Your goal is to repeat a set of actions typical for some situations and provide the expected result of appropriate quality. If the person didn't learn those instructions properly, they would fail even the simplest of tasks, and someone would need to fix it for them, which would cost the hiring manager and business additional money and just be impractical to keep that person around. Also, hear me out on this. Given that theory is foundational for the junior level, I expect someone to impart that knowledge to you before you get to my interview. As I do so, I need to check the quality of your education. The harsh truth is that I want to avoid redoing someone else's bad job or dealing with mistakes the previous mentor made with the candidate. But if everything goes well in the theoretical part, we could move further. If not, the hiring manager should either pass on the candidate or suggest going through an internship once again if they see something worth fighting for, something unique. I will talk about the theory connection to practice further, but before jumping into that, let's look at a few questions from the junior level. The first and very popular question is, what are the types of requirements, or what requirements types do you know? To answer this question, you need to know and understand that you could use many high-level categorizations, but there are two most common ones. The first is one by IABA from BA and the second one is Carl Wiggers' classification. The first one is all about different types of projects. The second one is focused on software requirements, which you could mention in your answer. You should choose the categorization most appropriate to the job you want to get and list the categories. This would be the straight up answer to the question, but the question assumes that you go beyond just listing them. There are options here. You can give an example for each category, showing that you know what lies behind them. For example, compose a SMART goal to explain business requirements. You may also discuss how those requirements are connected or about their hierarchy. For example, you may explain that user requirements are decomposed into functional requirements, while both might originate from business rules. You could also explain how those two approaches from IABA and Carl Wiggers are connected. For example, IABA stakeholder requirements are partially covered by Wiggers' user requirements, as users are one of the types of stakeholders. The second popular interview question is, what elicitation techniques do you know, or, if worded incorrectly, which happens too often, what requirements gathering techniques do you know? Elicitation and requirements gathering are synonyms, but the second one is incorrect because you gather not requirements but information. Why is this important? Well, for many things, but at least to remember that not everything your stakeholders dream about should become requirements and be implemented. To answer this question, you need to list techniques you know, such as interviews, workshops, brainstorming, document analysis, etc. The more you do, the better. Next, you want to select some of them, those you know best, and explain what those techniques are best for and what are their weaknesses. Interviews, for example, are great for having a face-to-face communication with a single stakeholder. They allow you to build relationship with people through an intimate-like atmosphere. They help you asking questions that you cannot ask in public and allow you to dive deep into some topics. At the same time, there are better techniques to elicit information than interviews if you have hundreds of stakeholders. For that, you might want to use something like surveys, focus groups, or workshops with representatives of different stakeholders groups. So the bare minimum for this question is to list techniques and describe some of them. The next level is to compare techniques, and the top level is to show your application from experience or at least demonstrate application understanding. And this is where we actually move from the theory discussion to the second part of my video. There is one thing to spill something you studied, and another one is to understand it. No offense intended here, honestly. It's just how it works, especially with students. And believe me when I say this, because I was one myself. You take the book, you learn what's inside, and you reproduce it, but you have no idea why it works the way it's written in the book. But you're okay with that because your goal is not to learn something per se, but to get a good grade, right? Now, I'm not blaming you who watch this video, it's just how many people approach education and start learning but not cramming after practice. And you know, this approach works and people get jobs. So why care? Because we are here to ace your next interview, right? Not just get through. You want to be better than others in a super competitive market and get that job. That's why you must be ready to solve practical cases that display how you apply your knowledge in practice. It usually works like this. During an interview, you are given a situation, a context, and a task to perform. For example, you might be in the middle of a project, you receive a new request to work with, and a description provided as a part of the task. Your goal is to explain how you would process this change request and create high-level requirements for this request. Obviously, you wouldn't have all the details you need, so you have to work with what you have. Start solving the case by asking clarifying questions to understand the scope of your task. First, organizational questions like what are the objectives here, what the time limit for your task, and if there are any specific techniques you need to use, or if there is an approach or restrictions you are supposed to follow. After that, ask about the task itself. You may be given the bare minimum with the expectation that you will inquire more information with specific questions. In our case, an example of question could be if there is someone I can interview to get more details about the request. This is a great question because sometimes your interviewer is assumed to play that part. Next, when you understand the scope, decompose the task into what you need to do and estimate the time you need for each piece. You likely won't have time for everything, so you must define the minimum amount of work you must do to finish the task. You may ask an interviewer if they want to review the business analysis plan you post, because that is what is usually happens at the junior level. You don't rush yourself into things, but sync with your manager. When all preparations are done, you can proceed with the task. It's good to think out loud and explain your actions. It saves time later and shows your thinking process, which might be much more important than the actual result. What else might happen is that when the interviewer hears that you're going in the wrong direction, they might guide you and help you out. Before you finish, think of next steps you should take in real life situations and how things might unravel further, especially if you don't have time to finish everything on time. During this whole process, don't be afraid to make assumptions since you don't have all the information, but make sure to mention your assumptions out loud. Finally, you present the result and have a discussion. You can summarize your experience and reflect on your results, like what was good or bad, or where you had challenges. This is a good way to show that you are learning on the go, which is an excellent trait. Also, be brave and ask for feedback, showing that you're open to input and value manager's opinion. These were the common questions for a junior business analyst position and how to approach them during the interview as a candidate. If you are interested in junior position interviews, I'm sure I could attempt you with watching this video. I suppose that some of you might be on the verge of breaking into the next level, and maybe you are already thinking about your next step or going directly to the middle position. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to get more helpful content in future. And if you have any questions related to the topic, be bold to drop me a comment below this video and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability.